where you are, and welcome to today's webinar, Effective Interviewing for Industrial Positions, put on by the Department of Career Management and Development at the American Chemical Society. We're going to give you a couple minutes while everybody is still coming in, and we'll do some housekeeping things. Remember that you all are coming in mute mode, which means you can hear us, but we can't hear you. This helps keep the background noise down to a reasonable level. Our speaker today is Mary Moore. Mary has been doing volunteer career interactions with local colleges and universities for over a decade. She came into ACS about 4 years ago as a volunteer ACS career consultant. So over the years has helped hundreds of chemists with their career-related issues. And today, Mary is going to talk to us about effective interviewing for industrial positions. So Mary, take it away.
And thank you, Lisa. Lisa will be answering questions online for you. And Lisa is the one that just talked to you. She's been an ACS career consultant for many years as well. And we're going to be covering effective interviewing for industrial positions. This is a series of, there's a series of 3 webinars. This is one of those webinars that are of interest for job seekers. So let's start. Let me ask you a few questions. First of all, our focus of our time together is how to use your job interview to show your skills, your knowledge, your experience. The problem is when you go into an interview, it is very high-pressure environment. So how do you do showcasing? So let's start by putting you into that environment. Let's make you the job seeker. Imagine that you're in the middle of an interview in a job, and you want to showcase 3 main ideas. So what I would like for you to do is to think of 3 things that you really want to showcase about you. And please type them in your question and answer area on your webinar.
And they're all pausing to think before they come up with their answers.
Some of the questions you got about some of the questions you may have are, 3 of them are examples there. What is your greatest weakness? How do you handle conflict with a boss? Those are types of questions that may come in an interview. Do you guys know of any additional questions that may come up in an interview that may be a challenge for you to answer?
Okay, we're getting some. I would say we're starting to get some answers in there. One of my favorite questions that is often a challenge is, tell me about a time you made a mistake.
How you made a mistake. Very, very true. I've come into that myself. Well, with this this webinar, we're going to try to teach you and give you some skills and techniques that may help you during an interview process. So we're going to go through the steps. First of all, you have the interview process itself, how you're going to be called in for an interview and some of the steps to go through that. The behavioral interview format. This is what a lot of industries are using for the interview process. We want to give you an idea of how that is handled. Handling those difficult questions. Giving you some techniques that may help you. And preparing for an interview. What do you need to do to get ready for that interview yourself? The research talk and managing your job decisions. So during an interview, it is a two-way street. You are interviewing the company, and the company is going to be interviewing you. So for the employer, they're going to be looking for your technical competence, your scientific fit. How are you going to fit into what they need? Your desire and motivation. Where's that passion? Do they hear that passion on what you want to really get into? And your fit with the corporate culture. The employee is going to be looking, what am I going to be doing? What is going to be my responsibilities? How can I advance in the company? And what is the potential for my growth? And how do I fit in with the culture, the supervisors that I'll be working with, and my coworkers? So these are some of the types of questions that both sides really want answered, and that's what the interview is set for. The first thing we're going to cover, the first topic, is the interview process. It comes in 3 steps: the screening interview, the preliminary interview, and the on-site interview. The screening interview often involves human resource, not the hiring manager. It's done on campus, a clearinghouse, phone, career fairs, different areas that actually are focused towards hiring employees and just do some screening. The purpose of the screening interview is to eliminate all but the top 10 to 15%. They may have 400 applications for a job position, but they can't interview all of them. So they want to narrow that down. Most of the time the format it's a phone interview. It'd be about 30 minutes to 60 minutes. They may ask some things from your resume that they've got, just to ask some questions to make sure they totally understand. Discuss a little bit about your research summary so they can gather information to pass on. And they're going to make just the basic idea, a decision on who I'm going to call in. Then the next interview, you've all got through the first interview. So you guys have done fantastic, so let's move on. The preliminary interview is also typically done by phone, and it's done by the hiring manager. And they are going to be looking to see if they want them to come on site to interview them. So it's going to even narrow that 10 to 15% out of 400 even farther down, because they cannot have everybody coming in. But when you do an interview, act like you're standing right in front of the person that you're talking to. When you stand up and you're smiling and you're interacting, your voice carries that through, and they can hear that in your voice. You want to smile. Even though they can't see you, they can hear this in you. You ought to try that sometime. Hey, Lisa.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me something. What's the difference between an interview done by an HR person and one done by a hiring manager?
In most cases, the hiring manager is not, well, first of all, they're not as interested in the position because they're not going to be working with you on a daily basis. So they're going to be interested in the less technical aspects of the job. For example, are you willing to relocate? What are your salary requirements? What time frame are you available? Those more logistical parts of the job. The hiring manager is going to care more about, can you run this instrument? You know, are you interested in doing this job? You know, are you going to be able to work with me on a daily basis?
Thank you. After we get done with the interviews, now the primary interview says, okay, guess what? All of you, I want you to come in to be interviewed. So now we have an on-site interview. It's done by the hiring managers, and you have directors involved, HRs involved, fellow coworkers that you may be working with. And so you've made it through the first 2 stages. This is a face-to-face interaction with all those individuals. You may be given a tour of the area, and you are also going to be conducting your research work. And so all these people, different people are going to be interviewing you in the moment that you step on the property. And the format of a typical on-site interview is you'll get introduced to the team, you'll conduct your research seminar, and then they'll have a schedule for you to meet with different individuals in different areas. You may be given a tour of the different area, and they may have a discussion time with you, and then you'll have a debrief and a warm-up session as well. A wrap-up session. They will let you know what you expect after the interview. Now we've covered basically the interview process, and now I want to cover some of the format of how the interview may be conducted in several industries. More and more people are that are involved in hiring decisions are using an interview format known as behavioral interview. The more familiar with this, the better you're going to be prepared for your interview. It is most commonly used to interview format in business. There's so many different things. There's advantages and disadvantages. Lisa.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain what are the advantages of just looking at a candidate's resume?
The advantages of just looking at the resume, it's certainly a lot faster to just skim somebody's resume and decide whether or not you think they're going to fit the position. But having looked at a number of resumes over the years, I can tell you that you don't get a real sense of their personality and what they're going to be like to deal with on a daily basis.
Okay, so we've got the resume and what an advantage and a disadvantage. What about the disadvantage of just looking at like this behavioral interview about just testing and psychological testing?
Psychological tests are interesting, but I don't know that a lot of them actually correlate with job performance. I think, people are very complicated, and the best way to get a sense of somebody is just sit down and talk to them and find out how they handle different situations.
What is the disadvantage of just doing a off-the-wall, non-structured interview?
Legally, it could put the company in trouble if they don't ask the same questions of every candidate, because you want to give everybody a fair shake. So you're on much safer legal ground if you have a standard set of questions that you judge everybody against.
Thank you. A lot of questions that are asked during this interview process is really pinpointing you as an individual. So it's your resume, how you do your interview, how you conduct yourself that makes it a perfect interview for you. And a lot of times on the behavioral questions, they'll ask you, tell me about a time when, or explain what happened when this may have happened. So I'm going to give you some ideas. I want you to take your car wherever you go for an interview. When you think of the word car, think of context. Describe, answer the question and says, describe the job-related context. For instance, tell me about a time when you had a conflict with an employee. Okay, explain to them, okay, this was the conflict. This is how the situation happened. You explain the context of the situation. Then, this is what I did. This is how I corrected the situation. This is the action I took. This is the result. The employee and I started getting along. We started working together, and it made our team a lot better. So you got the results. So always take your car when you're looking at these questions and how you respond to them. And as you can see, this is another example of, can you tell me a time when you failed to meet a deadline? I guess I have two stories to tell. They share it. The action as a team, we launched the damage control. Results, because of these measures, we found what we needed and delivered the test on time. So, Lisa.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about a time when you failed to meet a deadline.
Oh, I would be happy to. I really hate to meet deadlines. I always like to make my obligations. There was one particular time when I was writing my book. I had a year to write it, and about 3 months before it was due, a member of my immediate family had a very serious health issue come up that I had to deal with, and I realized I was not going to be able to make the book deadline. So I called my editor, and I said, you know, I'm sorry. I think this is going to be a problem. What can we do? I learned that in the book publishing industry, deadlines are just kind of suggestions. They're really not all that intense about them. So he said, you know, no problem. If I got it in 3 months later, it wouldn't be a big deal. The only issue was there was a particular day that if I got it in, you know, by that day, they would be able to publish it in time for the ACS meeting. So it would be able to be in the booth there. So I was able to meet the later deadline. I just worked really hard and put some other things aside and got that done, and it actually was published almost on time and did come out at the fall ACS meeting that year.
Great. So everybody heard Lisa's story. Did you hear the context? She was going through. She knew she wasn't going to meet a deadline. She explained the situation. Action. What did she do to correct that situation she was in? Results. She got what she needed on the deadline, taking care of the whole situation. So she took her car. Now, how does that behavioral interview actually work? All the interviewers will meet in advance and decide who's going to ask what questions. They're not going to all be asking you the same question. And as you answer it, the interview is listening to your response, and then they're going to actually score where you fall into on the behavioral anchored rating scale. And I'll show you that in a moment. And after the series of interviews, all the interviewers are going to compare notes and get their scores all together. And typically, they use these questions to explore your skills to see if it's going to fit into what they need. Some of the key areas that you will need to be looking at is, are you a master of your subfield? Are you a problem solver? Are you an innovator? Do you take risk? Do you like to collaborate? Do you pursue, are you a pursuer of excellence? Are you a great leader? And a business acumen. The factors associated with a given job often are derived by the HR function, from interviews and job comments and from job descriptions. What other ideas or key performance factors that may be associated with a job that that may not be listed here? Do you think communication skills? Integrity? There's a long list, and these are what they're scoring on.
Okay, Mary, we have a question. Someone would like you to explain what is a subfield?
A subfield. You have different areas. For instance, let's use analytical. You may be an analytical person, and they're looking for somebody that's got experience within a certain field underneath that. But they also want that primary field of analytical interaction. So you may be an analytical-minded person that has done infrared, GC, NMR, and so they're looking for that skill. So you may be a master in GC, however, you've got the major overview of analytical mind. Does that help your question?
I think so. Thank you.
Now, let's just look at a couple of them. Let's look at problem solving. They will have a 5-position scale that they're going to choose. So for problem solving, are you unable to formulate a problem or identify the causes? Are you able to identify causes but not solutions? Able to develop and implement solutions to problems? This is just showing you a demonstration on how they will be scoring you. So after they score you, then they get together. Yes, this person's able to develop and implement solutions to problems, but the unusual problems they have a little bit of challenge with. The other one goes, well, I saw that they could handle, I gave them a very specific thing, and they were able to handle that unusual problem. So maybe it was in a different area. They're going to compare those, and then they're going to come up with a score. You may get 4.5 instead of just a 4. We spent a lot of time on the subject of behavioral interview because the more familiar you are with the format, the better you can use to format your experience and capabilities and behavior. It's like dancing. The better you know the steps, the more graceful you can be on the floor. So we're going to be doing a little bit of practicing with individuals that you may want to try to do, but Lisa, help me here.
Yes, ma'am.
If we have somebody that doesn't know where to start with their behavior, where would you suggest them to start to review themselves?
One of the tips that I give people that I'm counseling is to start by thinking about your most significant accomplishments. What are the things that you've done in your career of which you are most proud? And then what skills and abilities did you use in order to achieve that accomplishment, and how can you tell a story about that? For example, you could probably tell, I'm kind of proud of the fact that I wrote a book, and so I'm able to work that into the conversation, even while talking about a time that I missed a deadline, which is not a good thing, but I'm able to get that accomplishment in there as well.
Thank you. So in practicing the behavior interview, we have problem solving, we got innovators, collaborators, and leaders. And I think I just got sidekicked on my computer a second. Sorry about that. Now we've covered all those different areas to give you an idea of what kind of things the interviewer is going to be looking at for you. We also want to help you handle those difficult type of questions that may come up. We're going to give you some techniques that may help you. The CAR is formatted for the behavioral interview, makes it easier for you to answer questions put to you by the interviewers. So these are some of the questions. We want to give you those skills. Some people look at a job interview as a trial by fire for the job candidate. Let's look at a couple questions that you may run across when you're interviewing. Some difficult questions. Have you guys heard some of these? Tell me about yourself. Are you married? Do you have kids? What do you think, why do you think you're the best person for this job? Those are not easy questions to answer. And you're going to get some technique. For instance, question number 1, tell me about yourself. Remember to keep focused on your job objective. This is what you want to deliver in 30 seconds. Your elevator speech. Hey, Lisa, could you give us an example of question number 2, how we could handle?
I mean, that's a difficult one. Usually the way that I answer it depends on how they're asking it. If it's somebody that we're just chatting, informally at the beginning of the interview, and I don't think that they're asking it relevant to the job, I'll just say, yeah, I'm married, and, my kids are old enough that they pretty much take care of themselves. If it was, further into the interview, they were into the serious questions, and they said, well, are you married? Do you have kids? I might say yes. But if you're asking if I'm able to travel, then I have arrangements for that, and I don't have a problem doing the 25% travel that this job requires. So I would try to turn it back around to how it's relevant to the job for which I was applying.
Great, thank you. For instance, on question 4, why do you think you're the best person for the job? Always coming back to what you have to offer. How many of you think that you may be the perfect person for the job? There may be 90% of you out there. However, you don't know who you're up against. So you don't know if you're the best person, but you do know what you have to offer. That is what you need to sell. So let me give you some techniques that may help you when you go in for the interview. Prepare an answer for each of the previous questions. Just a quick answer. Take a breath. Think for a second before you answer. And if you don't understand the question, ask, is this what you're asking? And people love to hear stories and examples and a way to show that you have done this. And always tell the truth. It is so much easier to keep track of. Always be honest. We've covered the interview process, the behavioral interview format. Remember to take your car wherever you go. Some ideas to handle some of those difficult questions. Now it's time to prepare for that interview. When you get called in for an interview, your work isn't done. You take a deep breath. You want to prepare yourself when you go in there to be able to handle any situation that you may run into. You need to do due diligence and research the hiring company. Is there something brand new in the news that you may be able to bring up into your discussion? Do you know how the company is doing with the community? What does the community think of the company? Those are different things that you can find out very easily, but you really need to know a little bit about the company. They're going to know that by you explaining it to you, and they're going to know you've done your homework. And anticipate their questions and prepare some answers. You want to showcase your strengths. You may have two or three top strengths that you really want to sell and you want them to remember. Make sure you bring those out in the conversations. And framing any weaknesses you might have. You don't want to leave it on, I'm not good at talking. I'm very quiet. Turn that into a strength. Turn it around. I don't do a lot of communication. However, I've joined Toastmasters and working on advancing that, and I've done really great, and I'm proud of myself. You've turned that question into a positive, that weakness into a positive. And prepare your own questions for the interviewer. Just remember, this is a two-way interview. You're interviewing them, and they're interviewing you. Also, practice. Practice and practice. Stand in front of a mirror. On the way home driving, going over it in your head. So always keep practicing for your interviews. In industry research, in the industry, you've got several different options that you get into. You've got trends. You've got industry challenges that we have, different issues that's happening in the industry. This economy has made it a roller coaster ride for the past 2 years. What's the industry structure like? Who are their main competitors and what they're doing? What's the industry statistics saying? What about the strategy of the company? How is it organized? Some of their main product lines. Profitability profiles, what their stock trends are doing. What are the main challenges in the marketplaces? What have you read about their hiring and succession planning? All that can be found. There's resources out there galore, and thank goodness for the internet. You've got company websites. Lisa, do you know of any others that are on the internet that would be accessible to everybody?
There's lots of good places to look. A couple of things that I like, Standard & Poor's and Hoover's are both financial companies, investment type companies, but they do some really intensive reports on different industries that are quite detailed. So if you can get copies of those, your local library may have copies of them. They're fairly expensive if you have to buy them, but if your library has them, they're a great resource. My library has a database called Reference USA that has a lot of information on all different kinds of companies and a lot of specific details. So I'm a big fan of going to your local library and seeing what they have.
And I know many of you have great ideas to go out there. Our electronic age has made a lot of information available. Use it. Use your resources. And next step you want to do is anticipate their questions. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to be all mind readers and be able to know exactly what's going to be asked. But part of your job to prepare for that job interview is some of the questions that you need to prepare that you want to ask about the company. With you doing your reading about the company, some of those questions will come to up front for you, and it'd be very easy for you to do. Identify your main strengths, like I said, 2 to 3 that you really want to make sure that they hear about. And just a short little idea of illustration of your organizational skills or your analytical mind. You want to give us a short little example of each of that to keep. That's what you want them to remember when you leave. Identify your main weaknesses and prepare an answer for each of those. And remember, turn it into a positive. Be able to describe your skills and help them where it would help them meet their challenges. And practice your responses aloud, because you can hear in your voice, and you're saying it plus you're hearing it, so you're actually double practicing. Prepare your own questions. This will give you some examples of some of the questions that you may want to ask. How does your company differ from the competitors? How is your company surviving the economy challenges that we have today? How did this job come into needing somebody for this position? But be very careful. Do not ask about salary, your vacation, or how big my office is and where is it going to be located. Those will come back later. So preparing your own questions. Part of the job involves researching the company, and part involves thinking hard about the job description. You all will have a chance to read a job description and think about what kind of questions you might prepare in interviewing that job. What I would like you to do is to read this job description, what position they want to hire somebody for. And as you're reading it, I want you to think about a question that might be asked in an interview if you were going in for that position. And please write it in your question and answer box.
Okay, we are getting some people coming up with some questions.
A lot. If you read to this, you may have. We have a PhD, medicinal synthetic organic chemist. Sounds like they've got a lot of information there on your responsibilities, what the qualifications they're looking for. The individual collaborates, so if you're a collaborator, that would be a skill that you would want to highlight. And you'll also be doing collaboration within the company and externally with the company. So was there any question that that really stuck out, Lisa?
There's a number of them that are coming in, and they're still coming in. I think if I was applying for this job, one question that I would ask, it says that this job is going to be responsible for identifying structure-activity relationships in addition to doing the synthesis. And I would want to know how much computational chemistry was expected in this position, because there's a lot there. They want you to design the compounds, synthesize them, purify them, characterize them, and then if they also want you to do computational chemistry, that's a lot of different things. Yeah,
you're going to be busy.
So I would want to know, is this it sounds like this is a very small company where this person would be a generalist doing a little bit of a lot of different things. But I would want, clarification on, how much of each of these things I'm expected to do, and if I would be expected to be an expert in comp chem as well. And if so, they might have to pay me more.
So as you can see by Lisa looking at this, you pick up a lot in these, and different people will pick up different things, especially with what you're focused towards. So we've covered the interviewing process. Remember the 3 steps. The behavioral interview. Remember to take your car wherever you go. And handling those difficult questions. And actually doing your due diligence, preparing for that interview. Now let's cover just a little bit on the research talk. Your research talk is a way that they can judge your technical competence. The employer's goal for the research seminar is to learn how you solve interesting, challenging problems, and your goal is to demonstrate this. The employer also uses the research seminar to evaluate your oral presentation skills, your organization skills, how well you actually organized your presentation, and if you can think on your feet. The schedule may change a little depending on your performance. Your schedule will be evaluating you on a science, logic, and communication skills, personality, and your ability to handle pressure. Because given a presentation in an audience of your peers can be pressure. And last is determine how you respond to the questions from the audience. But remember, it is critical to the job offer. It is very difficult to recover from a poor seminar. If you're not able to communicate, it's very hard to actually bring that interview and turn it around. So make sure you spend your time on your research talk. So the basic format for your research talk is be concise, give a concise statement of the problem. Make sure you have, if there's any background material and any information, share that in your talk. Description of your approach to the problem, how you laid out the experiments, why you chose certain techniques and which ones you used. What are your major findings? What is the conclusions? If there's future work, what future work is going to be conducted? And always, always make sure you acknowledge everybody that was involved in that research work. Tips for your research talk is teach them a little bit about the area of your research. Tailor your seminar to fit them. Now, you don't know exactly who's going to be the audience, but you do know that they're going to be major scientists that work in your areas. And don't bluff them. When you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer, but you can get back with them. And know what any recent literature in your subfield and be aware of recent breakthroughs. You don't want to get up there and they go, well, do you know so-and-so just did this work and it contradicts what you just presented. So make sure you know what is out there in the recent literature. And stay within the time limit. Everybody's time is very important. It takes a lot of time to perform these interviews, and you want to make sure you stay within your time area. Follow-ups. You really want to stay, you've gone through the interview, you've done your research work, you've left the company, but you want to stay on that company's radar screen. You may want to do follow-up phone calls, sending personalized thank you notes. And yes, they can be sent electronically, if they've given you that information. When you get ready to wrap up, ask when the decision will be made. If they say, okay, 2 weeks, call back on the agreed upon time. Give them 2 weeks. The next day, call them. And touch base with your network. Your network has been helping you. So if somebody helped you get into this position or they're aware of it, touch base with them and let them know what you're doing and how things were going. So you've done the interview process. That's the 3 steps. The behavioral interview format, you took your car. Handling those difficult questions of, are you married? Preparing for an interview. Doing your due diligence on the company. Your research talk. Stay within the time period. Be concise. Be accurate. Always be truthful. If you don't know the answer, let them know you don't know the answer. But you'd like to check into that it was outside the scope of your research at that time. Now, how do you manage your job decision? Okay? Always be clear of what you want and what you need. Have all your papers together of your job search data and look at the different job offers. You may have 2 or 3, and you've got to decide which one's going to be best for you. And rank them in the way you want your decisions that best fits you and your lifestyle and your career wants. Make your decision. Conclude the process professionally. After all, we all want to keep building our network. Be clear about what you need, what you want. Some things you may not, that are non-negotiable. This is a must. You want career growth. You want advancement. You want stable employment. That may be important for people that have a family. If possible, wants that you would like. I would like early opportunities for leadership. I want to go into the leadership ladder. I like this area because the atmosphere, the culture, the locality. So make sure that the ones that are non-negotiable, you know what those are, and your desires that you could negotiate a little bit with. Assemble your job search data. You stated your goals and values. You got a list of all your skills and strengths. You have your resume. Put that all in a package. Now, from the employer side, you did the job description in its full context. You have a copy of that. Your interview notes. You've taken notes and your impressions of that atmosphere that you've gone through. Your correspondence with the employer. What your network is telling you. If you know somebody that was there, hey, I heard they were asking some questions here, and this would be a good fit for you. Also, you did all those searches on the internet about the company. So you have all that data together. Put it all in one central location. Analyze exactly what each job has to offer. What skills are needed to do the job well? You get that from the job description, your notes, your impressions. What are your feelings and judgment about the culture, the values, the work group you'll be working with? What about the supervisor's communication style? And how specifically will this job help to advance my professional success and my personal happiness? After all, if we're happy with the job we have, we're going to contribute a lot more. And what are your other options you have besides this job? Now, if you have several jobs that are offering, so you're going to need to compare them. You want to continue, and you may be already working now, and you say, well, do I really want to quit this job and go to another job? All these are personal decisions that you are going to have to make. So you've got to make sure that you understand that you go through all of them. What are consequences if I quit this job and go to another job? Where can I contribute more? Where is my greater compensation, my salary and benefits? Where can I get along with my coworkers and my supervisors? Am I happy where I'm at now? Would I like to go on, or do these two atmospheres compare? So then you're going to have to make your decision. Evaluate your options. Make your decision. Make sure you call the employer that you want, that you're going to accept the position, and follow them up with in writing. Now call the others to let them know that you have accepted a position elsewhere and thank them for their time. And terminate any plans that you may have for additional interviews, because you don't want to waste their time and you want to leave that time up for somebody else. Always be professional when you're going through this process. Inform your network and thank them for all their help. If you're a student or a postdoc, review remaining obligations that you have with your advisor and negotiate some time to get that completed. Tell the new employer your expected start date. Keep him or her informed of your progress. And make sure you complete and file your thesis before leaving. Also, a good time to take a vacation, relocate, and move in before starting a new job. After all, when you start your job, it's going to be a little bit of time before you actually going to be able to take vacation. So we've covered the interview process. We've covered the behavioral interview format. Make sure you take your car. Handling those difficult questions. How to prepare for an interview. How to actually look online and get some information on that company. Your research talk. You want to stay within the time period you need and make sure it's organized. And manage your job decisions in a professional manner. This is only one of several services that we have. We have 2 other workshops that the ACS offers in the webinar series, preparing your resume and planning your job search. Also, on August 17th, Lisa will be presenting a webinar on how to prepare for the ACS Career Fair. So we'd like you to join us there. And of course, the ACS Career Fair in the fall will be located in Boston. Also, if you would like to practice interviewing, we have interviewing streams through ACS, and we'd love for you to join us there. So you can go on and actually handle some of those difficult questions and practice in front of the interviewing stream and have it recorded. Lisa? Have you anything to add?
I think you covered it all pretty well. We do have a few questions if you're ready for those.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I knew you would be. Probably the question that most people have asked has been how to handle the salary question. A lot of people are writing in saying that companies are asking, what is the minimum you will accept to make this move? And, or, you know, obviously, how much do you want to take this job? And so how would you suggest they answer that question?
Yes, that is a very difficult question because we'd all love to make the top line dollar. And we don't want to price ourselves too high, and we don't want to price ourselves too low. We don't want to sell ourselves short. However, maybe a good idea is to let them know that you would like to be paid that is within the job description, qualifications, responsibilities, and what you have to offer, what is the fair price of your skills.
And I often suggest that people go to the ACS salary comparator, and you can come up with the range for that type of position.
That's an excellent choice. Is because that salary, it gives you a wide range, and you can actually look in different locations to see how that fits in, and it's an excellent choice.
Okay. Another question that a couple people have asked, is it okay to bring notes to the interview, and is it okay to take notes during the interview?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never had that one. Bring in your portfolio shows you that you've been very organized, and make sure you want to have your information together. However, have it in a professional manner. You don't just want a couple pieces of paper here and there. And you don't need to refer it on a regular basis. You may want to have those questions just off the top of your head. You don't want to read from your notes. And you will be given breaks and stuff to take notes. In a lot of the interviews that I've been involved in. And if you have a couple things that you would like to highlight, please take those notes because you don't want to forget. And you may say, excuse me, I'd like to make sure I remember that.
Okay, excellent. I've had a number of people who've written in to tell me that it's illegal to ask if you're married, and it's illegal to ask how many kids you have or if you have kids.
Absolutely. In the United States, it is illegal for them to ask you your marital status and if you have children.
And a couple of them were wondering if it was a good idea to point that out to the interviewer.
Oh, no. They already know that. But you may, if they ask you, and to say, well, are you asking me if I'm going to be ready to move to a different location and be able to work 14 hours a day? If you're able to, say, yes, I'm able to do that. Turn the question around and try to find out why they're asking the question. But you do not want to offend them saying, you're not really supposed to be asking me those questions, because it will offend you and it gives them a negative vibe from you. And yes, it is illegal, and they do know that. But just turn the question around, and usually they will back and let you know exactly what they're asking for. I think a lot of times they know it's not appropriate to ask, but they don't know how to ask, will you be available for certain things?
Okay, excellent. Another question we've had is, would an entry-level chemist be required to give a talk, or is that something that only higher-level positions require?
We are seeing more and more that BS chemists and master MS degrees are requested to give presentations. This is starting more on a regular basis. A lot of companies, it is just the senior chemists that are doing presentations. However, I'm seeing that trend change.
Okay. And a related question is, how do you come up with the topic for your research talk?
Something that you can sell that you are very proud of, that you've done. You may have a research talk that is related to some kind of chemistry around the company you're going to actually apply for. That would be a good thing to highlight. I've even had people ask, well, I've done research, but it's been 10 years ago, and now I'm unemployed, and I cannot share what I did at the company. How do I backtrack? Well, backtrack to what you did before. However, update it. This is the technology that has happened since then. But this is the work I started and led into all these other areas. So you really need to find out from the company what they have to offer and what you have to sell. And also you need to look at yourself. What do I have to sell? What did I do in this research project that I contributed? And if your research work led to a Nobel Prize winning, I would definitely use that one.
Okay, and hopefully all of our listeners have that problem, that their research is Nobel Prize winning.
Yes, I know there's a couple out there.
Okay. I'm going to ask this one, but then I think I'm going to have to answer it also. Several people are asking, is it possible to listen to a recording of this webinar or to get the slides for this webinar?
Lisa, can you share that?
Yes, Leon is telling me that the slides will be posted on acswebinars.org/archives within the next week. And Leon is also sharing that another great place to do market research, in addition to the ACS Salary Comparator, is careerinfonet.org. Okay. I think you mentioned this briefly, but somebody would like some more elaboration on when you send a thank you note after the interview, is email or handwritten preferred?
Either way. Handwritten gives that extra personal touch, but a lot of times you may not have all the information to be able to contact them. However, if they've given you the email information, please use it as well. It is that personal touch either way. The electronic age has made it so much easier for us. You can go slow mail or email.
Okay. Someone is asking, what if they ask about your immigration status, or if you have a work permit, are they allowed to ask that?
You're going to have to help me on that one, Lisa.
There is a particular way they are allowed to ask the question. They can ask, do you have the legal right to work in this country? So obviously, if you're a citizen, if you have a green card, if you have a visa that allows you to work without the employer doing any extra paperwork, then you would answer yes. If the employer is going to have to, file paperwork or to get you to get the visa for you, then you would have to answer no, that it would require some work on their part. But they're supposed to ask the question as, do you have the legal right to work in this country? They can't ask if you're a citizen. Okay. We may have time for just one more question, so we'll give the last one. Mary, do you have any specific interviewing strategies for older job seekers? So those way more experienced in their career.
We're, in the what I call seasoned scientist, is you have a lot to sell. So you're going to have to kind of narrow it down, and you want to give them their top skills that you have for an interview. With somebody that has gone through maybe a couple interviews in their career, you will see a huge difference in the way that they are performed from yesterday and today. They've got your resume with all the information. Now they want to find out about your passion. You can show that you have that passion that is still ignited. That is one thing you need to bring forth. But be a 20-year-old or a 70-year-old, you have so much to offer.
Well, and I think that's a great note on which to end the webinar. So do you have any final remarks, Mary?
No, just remember the ACS Career Fair in Boston. If you want some help with interviewing and you want to practice, remember interviewing stream with the ACS. And Lisa, your webinar you're going to be teaching on August 17th.
August the 17th on how to prepare for a career fair. So we hope to see you all there. Thanks, Mary, and thanks to all of you for listening.
And thank you.